They say some verses of the Quran protect you like armor, not against bullets or knives, but against something far darker, whispers in the night, shadows that follow you, and forces that want your soul. One of those shields is Surah Al-Kafirun. Prophet Muhammad called it a freedom from shirk, a sword against shame, and a shield before sleep. But what happens if you neglect it? This is the true story of a young man who ignored Surah Kafirun and faced a horror he could never forget. They say some verses of the Quran can protect you like an armor, not from arrows or swords, but from something far darker, shadows that follow you in the night, whispers that creep into your heart, and choices that decide your eternity. One of these shields is Surah Al-Kafirun, a chapter so short you can recite it in less than half a minute, but so powerful that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, it is equal to 1/4 of the Quran. But what happens when someone ignores it? And what miracles happen when someone holds on to it? This is that story. The surah that saved him from Jinn, Surah Kafirun story. The old city of Hyderabad had always been a place of contrasts. By day, it was filled with bustling markets, the aroma of biryani, and the azan echoing from ancient mosques. But by night, there were alleys no one dared to cross. They whispered of jinn that lived in abandoned houses, of men who lost their faith and lost their souls, and of strange deaths that no doctor could explain. A young man named Samir lived there. He was 27, a software engineer, with all the trappings of modern success, an apartment, a car, and friends who lived fast and spoke of nothing but money. Yet deep down, Samir felt empty. His grandmother, Ammi John, was his only link to faith. She was old, frail, but her lips never rested from dhikr. Every night before sleeping, she would whisper verses of the Quran, ending with a recitation of Surah Al-Kafirun, then Surah Al-Ikhlas, Surah Al-Falaq, and Surah An-Nas. Beta, she would say softly, these are your shields. Without them, you are naked before the world of darkness. Samir would smile and nod, but in truth, he never bothered to recite. He thought it was just an old woman's superstition. One night, after a long party with his friends, Samir returned home past midnight. The streets were strangely quiet. As he unlocked his door, he heard a voice, faint, whispering, almost like his name being called. Samir. He froze. His heart raced. He looked around, nothing. He brushed it off as imagination. But when he stepped inside, the air felt heavy. His room smelled of something burnt. His laptop flickered on by itself. That night, he couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt someone standing near his bed, watching. By morning, he looked pale, drained. His grandmother immediately noticed. You didn't recite Surah Kafirun, did you? She asked sternly. Samir laughed nervously. Dottie, please, don't scare me with these stories. I just didn't sleep well. But inside, he knew something had happened. Days passed. Samir's life began to unravel. He heard whispers at work. His colleagues asked why he was talking to himself when he wasn't. His health declined, dark circles under his eyes, unexplained scratches on his arms, as though something clawed him in his sleep. Doctors found nothing. Psychologists said it was stress. But his grandmother knew. She sat him down one evening, holding her worn-out Quran. Samir, do you know why Rasulullah, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, loved Surah Al-Kafirun? Samir shook his head. She recited, Kul ya ayyuhal kafirun, la abudu ma tabidin, wala antum bidna ma'bud, wala ana bida ma'baddum, wala antum bidna ma'bud, lakum dinukum waliyadin. My son, she said with trembling voice, this surah is not just rejection of shirk. It is a sword that cuts every whisper of compromise with disbelief. Whoever recites it before sleeping, Allah protects him from the whispers of shame. Rasulullah himself recited it in his sunnah prayers and before sleeping. Do you understand? This surah is safety for your soul. Samir listened, but his pride kept him silent. That very night, he dreamt of being dragged into a marketplace filled with fire. Dark figures surrounded him, mocking, chanting words he didn't understand. A tall shadow whispered, You belong to us now. You never said Kul ya ayyuhal kafirun. You never separated yourself from us." Samir screamed, but no sound came out. He woke drenched in sweat, his throat dry, his body trembling. On his bedside wall, in the faint light, he saw something scratched in the paint, a word in Arabic, kafir. He stumbled back in fear. His grandmother rushed in, reciting Surah Kafirun aloud, her voice trembling but firm. And, as she recited, the heaviness in the room lifted. The air cleared. Samir collapsed, crying. The turning point. The next morning, he begged his grandmother to teach him properly. She smiled through tears. From then on, Samir recited Surah Kafirun before sleeping. For the first time in months, he slept peacefully. No whispers, no shadows, no nightmares. He learned that the Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Recite Surah Kafirun and then sleep upon completing it, for it is a declaration of freedom from shirk." Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, would recite it in Sunnah of Far and Maghrib prayers. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said, "It is equal to 1/4 of the Qur'an." Samir's heart softened. His arrogance crumbled. He began praying again, and his life slowly rebuilt. Months later, one of Samir's closest friends from his old life, a man named Imran, mocked him. "Samir, you used to be fun. Now you're always with Quran and prayers. Don't tell me you believe in these bedtime stories about Surah Kafirun." Samir looked at him calmly. "Imran, I saw with my own eyes what happens when you neglect it. If you don't believe, spend one night in that old abandoned house near the railway tracks, without reciting Surah Kafirun. Then tell me if you still laugh." Imran, prideful and drunk on ego, accepted. That night he went. He never returned alive. His body was found at dawn, his face twisted in terror, his fingernails broken as though he had tried to claw his way out of the locked room. Doctors declared it a heart attack, but Samir knew. He stood over his friend's grave, tears falling, whispering Surah Kafirun, not for the dead, but for himself, as a shield. Years later, Samir became an imam. Every time he taught Surah Kafirun, he would end with these words. Don't underestimate its power. It is the banner of Tawheed, the rejection of every whisper of kufr, the shield against Shayṭān, and the peace before sleep. One night without it nearly cost me my soul. Don't make that mistake. He would pause, eyes filled with sincerity. Tonight, when you lie down, don't forget Surah Kafirun. It may just be the difference between sleeping in peace and waking up in terror. If this story moved you, then make it your habit. Recite Surah Kafirun before you sleep, after Far and Maghrib Sunnah, and hold on to Tawheed like your life depends on it, because it does. Subscribe to Deen in Minute for more life-changing reminders that could save your soul. And share this video, because you never know who might be one night away from darkness.